You've definitely seen the pyramid, right? 5 colorful levels, starting with basic survival and climbing all the way up to this big idea of self-actualization. But what if I told you that iconic pyramid, well, it isn't the whole story. Not even close. Today, we're going to cut through the noise and go straight to the source, Abraham Maslow's original 1943 paper, to find out what he really had to say about what makes us tick.
So let's just start with a really simple question. What really motivates you? Is it your job title? A feeling of security? Love? I mean, this is the fundamental question Maslow is trying to tackle. He was looking for a single framework that could explain the incredibly complex, often messy, engine of human desire. You see, Maslow looked at the motivation theories of his day and thought, nope, this isn't cutting it. So many of them were based on animal studies, and he argued that just completely misses what makes us uniquely human. Other theories focused on a single drive, like hunger, which he saw as a special case, not the rule for everyday motivation. He was convinced that any real theory had to focus on our ultimate goals, not just the little steps we take to get there.
And this quote, this is his foundational insight right here. Maslow's big idea was that our needs aren't just a random jumble, they're organized in a kind of hierarchy. And the second we satisfy one want, another one just pops up to take its place. We are, as he put it, perpetually wanting animals. It's this continuous, lifelong journey of striving for the next thing.
Okay, so let's actually build this hierarchy from the ground up, exactly how Maslow laid it out. We're going to start at the absolute base with the needs that, scream the loudest when they're ignored.
So at the very bottom, you have the physiological needs. This is all about survival. Food, water, air, sleep, and this thing he called homeostasis, which is really just the body's automatic mission to keep everything stable and balanced. Maslow called these the most prepotent needs, which is a fancy way of saying that when they're missing, they are all-powerful. They basically hijack your brain.
And Maslow just had this perfect way of describing how powerful this is. He wrote that for someone who is dangerously hungry, he dreams food, he remembers food, he thinks about food. Utopia can be defined very simply as a place where there is plenty of food. When you're in that state, everything else, love, freedom, respect, it all just fades away into the background.
And this right here, this is the crucial pivot in his entire theory. For most of us, hopefully, in peaceful, stable societies, that kind of life-or-death hunger is pretty rare. So once we have bread, and we have enough of it, what happens to our desires then? What do we want next?
Well, almost immediately, a whole new set of needs emerges. The safety needs. This is our deep-seated drive for security, for stability, for protection from chaos. Maslow said you can see this most clearly in children. They absolutely thrive on routine and predictability. Any kind of injustice or inconsistency or chaos, it makes them feel anxious and unsafe because it threatens their core need for an orderly, predictable world.
So we've got a roof over our heads, we've got food in the pantry, now the hierarchy starts to shift. We move from the purely physical to the psychological. Our motivations become all about connection. You see, once we feel safe, we suddenly start to feel the sharp sting of loneliness. We feel the absence of friends, of a partner, of family. We get this hunger for affectionate relationships and for a sense of belonging, a place in the group. And Maslow was really direct about this. He said that when these needs are blocked, it's the most commonly found core in cases of maladjustment.
Next on the list, the esteem needs. And Maslow was really smart about this. He actually split them into 2 different kinds. First, there's the desire for what you might call internal esteem, things like strength, achievement, and real self-confidence. And second, there's the desire for external esteem, things like reputation, recognition, and getting respect from other people. And when you get these needs met, man, the payoff is huge. We feel capable, we feel useful, like we're necessary in the world. But when these needs are blocked, that's when feelings of inferiority, of weakness, and of helplessness start to creep in.
All right, so we've built our foundation, we've made our connections, now we're heading for the summit. We're arriving at the very peak of Maslow's original hierarchy.
And this brings us to the big one, self-actualization. What Maslow said was that even if every single one of those other needs is met, we can still feel this new kind of restlessness and discontent unless we are doing what we, as unique individuals, are truly built to do. It's the drive to become everything that we are capable of becoming.
This quote, it just says it all, doesn't it? What a man can be, he must be. A musician has to make music, an artist has to paint,
a poet has to write. For Maslow, this isn't really a choice. It's a fundamental, unavoidable drive for self-fulfillment.
Okay, so we've built the classic 5-step ladder. But this is where Maslow's theory gets really fascinating, and it's the part that most summaries just completely leave out. So let's go beyond that simple pyramid.
This right here is the game changer. Once a need is more or less satisfied, it stops being a motivator. It just kind of disappears from our conscious mind. And what that means is that we are only ever driven by unsatisfied needs. That simple fact completely changes how we should be looking at this whole hierarchy.
And this just blows up the biggest misconception about Maslow's pyramid. He never ever described a rigid, all-or-nothing ladder where you have to be 100% satisfied on one level before moving to the next. In fact, he explicitly said that most of us normal people are partially satisfied and partially unsatisfied in all of our basic needs all at the same time.
He even threw out some rough, arbitrary numbers just to illustrate his point. He said for the average person, maybe their physiological needs are 85% met, their safety needs are 70% met, love 50%, esteem 40%, and so on. See, it's not an on-off switch. It's a gradual, overlapping emergence of higher needs as the lower ones get taken care of.
And he didn't stop there. He was totally aware that this hierarchy isn't set in stone for everyone. For some people, getting self-esteem is their main way of feeling loved. For others, this innate creative drive can just steamroll almost everything else. Maslow always saw his theory as a flexible framework, not some set of rigid, unbreakable rules.
Okay, so all of this brings us to a really profound conclusion, one that kind of reframes our entire understanding of what psychological well-being even is.
So what is a healthy person, according to Maslow? It's not someone without needs. It's someone whose basic needs for things like safety, belonging, and esteem are so consistently met that they are now free. They're primarily motivated by growth, by the need to become their best selves. You could almost say that to be chronically driven by a lower need is, in his view, to be fundamentally unhealthy.
And that brings us to one last and pretty challenging question. If a healthy person is someone whose basic needs are satisfied, then what does that make a person whose needs are consistently blocked or thwarted?
And here is Maslow's radical, stunning answer. He compared a lack of love or safety to a lack of vitamins in your diet. He argued that to be thwarted in any of your basic needs is, quite simply, to be sick. It's an incredibly powerful idea that recasts our personal struggles not as character flaws, but as symptoms of unmet fundamental human needs. What do you think might change if we all saw the world that way?